Condensing a novel into one sentence. Now that's a good exercise. It's kind of fun. It's challenging, but you might, just for the heck of it, take a novel you've read, you're familiar with, and try to write one sentence that sums it up. You don't have to get into a lot of specifics, but try to give the most powerful gist of the story that you can. But again, one sentence. And another thing you might do, we've been talking about the pros and cons of outlining when you're writing your own novel, outlining versus not outlining, et cetera, and just winging it. But if you do want to have a full concept of your novel, what it's going to be about before you start, which is to an extent that's human nature. Most people are going to start with some idea of what it's about. And even if you don't know how it's going to end. But then write one sentence. Write a one-sentence description, summation of your novel. And that's hard work, actually. To just eliminate words that aren't needed and don't go off on tangents and try to cut right to the key chase. It's tricky. It's a little bit of an art form. And the New York Times does it very well. And every once in a while, I look at the New York Times current hardback bestseller list just to read those one sentence descriptions of each book. And I'm looking at the current list. There's about 12 of them, and we'll just go over those very quickly here. So these are the New York Times hardcover fiction bestsellers from this week, August 26, 2018. And I won't bother reading the titles, but the sentence, the description. A pilot navigates treacherous situations when he attempts to deliver a mysterious black box to a doctor in Georgia. Next, President Jonathan Duncan takes on adversaries at home and abroad. Very simple, but that's the description. That's what obviously happens in the book. The vampire hunter Anita Blake goes to a Florida island where members of a family turn into a mass of snakes. A detective investigates a seemingly wholesome member of the community when an 11-year-old boy's body is found. That's a new Stephen King called The Outsider. Gabriel Allon, the art restorer and assassin, fights the Russians to decide the fate of post-war global order. A Catskills lodge loses electricity during a blizzard, and its guests start mysteriously dropping dead. A window into Willa Drake's life over 50 years and how she adjusts to some of life's surprises. In the 22nd book in the FBI thriller series, agents Sherlock and Savage look for an escaped psychopath. A movie star is blackmailed, and Teddy Fay, disguised as an actor and stuntman, investigates. Annie Marlowe forms new relationships in the Pacific Northwest as she tries to recover from tragedy. A body is found in Nantucket Harbor hours before a picture-perfect wedding. A South Carolina lawyer learns about the questionable practices of a Tennessee orphanage. A scandal sends members of two Nashville families into chaos. That's hard to condense it to that. That's tough. Looks simple, but it's not. But that's the story. That's the crux of the story, obviously. And the final one would be Emily Charlton plans a comeback from the suburbs. So there you have it. And there are other newspapers and obviously magazines and outlets that have bestseller lists, and they often condense them into a sentence, sometimes a couple of sentences. New York Times still does it very well. And again, these look simple, but try it with a novel you're familiar with. And don't read the jacket or the blurb that's on there. Just think of a book. Think of Huckleberry Finn, for example, and just write one sentence. What's it about? How would you describe it? Or a modern, a James Patterson book, or anything. Stephen King, The Stand. Describe it in one sentence. Not easy, and it's fun. It's challenging, and again, it's something you may consider before you begin your own novel, when you're sort of putting the pieces together and it's starting to germinate. If you're not a total seat of the pants person, you want to do some outlining and some planning, then once you kind of get it all together, try to sum the whole thing up in one sentence. And if it doesn't sound really good, then make some adjustments. Not necessarily to the sentence, I mean to your thought about the story. Try to have it where that one sentence is intriguing, or it's going to pay off for the reader. Okay.